There's a type of news that does not land like a blockbuster trade, but it changes the feeling inside the building. In Foxborough, those signals are starting to leak through the cracks. A veteran finding his voice in the secondary, an offensive need that could turn into an aggressive move, a depth player trying to force his way onto Vrabel's radar, and an extension the whole league already seems to expect. That is real behind-the-scenes football, fans. It is not just about who sits at the very top of the roster. It is about who carries the standard when the season gets tight. If you are tracking these signals closely, hit that like button, because today we are reading this thing from the inside out. The hidden detail in this secondary is not Christian Gonzalez being special. Everybody already knows that. The real detail is Carlton Davis becoming the kind of veteran who might not dominate the national conversation, but shows up in every area coaches respect. Preparation, adjustment, competitiveness, and real influence inside that locker room. And this is where the behind-the-scenes read starts to get interesting. Davis does not have to be Gonzalez. Nobody needs to force that comparison because it would be unfair and unnecessary. His role is different. He is the number 2 corner who can lock down the other side, bring big game scar tissue, and lean on the fact that he has already won a Super Bowl, seen different schemes, taken some hits, corrected mistakes, changed environments, and still kept searching for small advantages where a lot of veterans start losing that hunger. When Mike Vrabel compares that process to a baseball pitcher, the message feels clear. At a speed position, aging in the NFL demands a deeper bag. You do not win because you can run. You win because you understand route timing, because you know when to get physical, because you can change the angle, because you can hide your hands, and because you refuse to let the receiver get comfortable. Davis, at 29, seems to know exactly where he is in his career. Of course, nobody needs to act like everything is spotless. He had penalty issues, led the league in defensive pass interference last year with 9, and also ranked high in defensive holding calls. That can hurt a defense in huge moments. But the contrast matters here. The same player who lives on that edge is also the player Drake Maye called great in the locker room, always ready to compete, calling the quarterback over before practice to challenge him. That is not some pretty stat. That is everyday culture. And in a secondary with Gonzalez, Marcus Jones, Kevin Byard, and Craig Woodson, that kind of presence can become the glue. Gonzalez gives you the ceiling. Jones flips field position in the return game and adds explosiveness. Byard brings veteran eyes. Woodson is coming off a rookie season that already earned real respect. But Davis might be the guy who connects all of it between a meeting, a practice rep, and a film correction. The internal question for New England is simple. Would you rather have a cleaner corner on paper, or accept the risk of a physical competitor who gives an entire defense an identity? I would take that risk, as long as Vrabel controls the aggression without stripping away the edge. Because if this secondary really comes back with the chemistry Davis described, the Patriots will not just have good names on the back end. They will have a group that plays like it knows the answer before the snap. And that is the difference between a roster that gets assembled and a roster that gets shaped from within. When the defense starts finding its voice, the offense has to answer with real depth too. Julian Hill's injury looks on the surface like a depth story. But inside camp, depth quickly turns into logistics, and logistics turns into roster decision-making fast. When a tight end suffers a season-ending knee injury and goes to injured reserve, the issue is not just losing one name. It is losing reps, losing a body for practice, losing an option in heavy personnel, and losing the margin to evaluate the rest of the room calmly. That is where Mike Vrabel left the door cracked open. He said that, from a numbers standpoint in camp, that position would probably need to be evaluated and maybe addressed. Translated into Foxborough language, the coach did not promise a move, but he also did not slam the door shut. And when a coach like Vrabel leaves that kind of room in his words, I pay attention. Because there is the basic move. Bring in another tight end just to fill out the rotation, absorb summer snaps, and avoid overloading the room. That is normal. But there is also the ambitious move, and that is where Michael Mayer of the Raiders enters as a possible trade target. The fit makes sense from different angles. Mayer was a Josh McDaniels pick in Las Vegas, came out of Notre Dame as one of the most respected tight ends in that class, and ended up in an offense where Brock Bowers became the center of the position. In 3 seasons, Mayer has 83 catches, 788 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That is not star production, but it is also not a fair picture of his ceiling when the Raiders' offensive context and target split carry that much weight. For the Patriots, the read goes beyond Hill's injury. Hunter Henry is 31 and entering the final year of his contract. Could he come back? Absolutely, but New England has to think about the next cycle before the need turns into desperation. Eli Raridon has athleticism and deserves development, but a serious team does not bet the entire future of the position on one hope. Especially in an NFL where two tight end looks help protection, the run game, play action, and quarterback comfort. Maye with Henry right now would give Drake Maye a heavy, smart package. Down the road, he could become the natural successor if the contract and cost make sense. And if the price landed around something like a 5th and a 7th as suggested, I completely understand why New England would pick up the phone. The real question is this: do the Patriots only want to patch a camp hole, or turn an injury into a chance to get ahead of the future at the position? That kind of choice looks small from the outside and huge on the inside. Because after adding A.J. Brown as the top target, every piece that makes Maye's life easier carries a different weight. It does not need to be a massive headline to be a serious football move. Not every behind-the-scenes piece has to arrive with starter-level noise. Sometimes the name that helps change a season is the one that prevents the drop-off when somebody gets hurt. That is why Mike Brown deserves real attention in this camp. The Patriots safety duo has a strong top end. Kevin Byard arrived with a heavy resume, coming off a season where he led the league in interceptions and returned to first-team All-Pro level. Craig Woodson, meanwhile, no longer feels like just a promise. After playing all 21 games between the regular season and the playoffs, he showed in January that his body can hold up, his processing is growing, and the big moment did not scare him. But the NFL tests depth without asking for permission. Last year, New England was lucky Hawkins and Woodson did not miss time. Del Pettis was useful when called on, but the behind-the-scenes question is different. If the schedule tightens, if an injury hits, if the defensive plan calls for different packages, who steps in without dropping the standard? That is where Brown enters the picture. He does not arrive as a glamorous name. He comes with a bumpy story, stops with the Vikings, Packers, Browns, and Titans, plus a direct connection to Mike Vrabel. In 2024, when he got real volume, he played all 17 games and made 49 tackles for Tennessee. Then knee and ankle injuries limited his momentum. So the question is not pure talent. It is availability, rhythm, and trust. But the physical profile stands out. 6'1", 222 pounds, the heaviest safety in the room. And even at that size, he is not just a box player. More than 60% of his career snaps have come as the deep man. That matters because Byard and Woodson also spend a lot of time in that part of the field. Brown can bring flexibility, size, and system experience without forcing the defense to change its entire language. Patriots fans, front office room read. Would you rather keep the spot with someone more familiar on the roster, or bet on this bigger profile, tied to Vrabel, trying to restart his career in Foxborough? I lean toward liking the bet, not as a savior, as a layer, as competitive insurance, as the type of player who, if he earns trust in August, lets the coordinator breathe easier in November. And if the defense is searching for those hidden layers, the next conversation goes directly to the player New England simply cannot afford to let slip away. Some negotiations do not need to become a saga to carry real pressure. Christian Gonzalez wanting an extension before the season is that kind of situation. The franchise has already picked up the 5th-year option, so there is contractual control. But the league seems to understand the same thing. If New England knows what it has, this deal needs to happen before Week 1. Remember why this became such a big deal. In 2024, when the Patriots were stuck in a second straight 4-13 season, teams called asking about young talent. New England listened on some pieces, but made it clear Gonzalez was not available. That was a loud behind-the-scenes signal. Even in a bad moment, there was one name the building treated like a foundation. Since then, Gonzalez has done exactly what special players do. He turned protection into proof. The shoulder injury and torn labrum wiped out almost all of his rookie season. Then he came back, missed only one game in 2024, became a second-team All-Pro, and started building a reputation as a reliable cover corner. In 2025, a hamstring injury delayed the start of his campaign. But when the season got heavy and the Patriots reached the Super Bowl, he did not disappear. That is what changes the money. He does not have wild interception numbers, just 3 in 34 games. But a real cornerback is not only hunting highlights. He erases reads. He makes the quarterback look somewhere else. He lets the coordinator get more aggressive. He gives the safety more freedom. He holds one side of the field without turning every snap into panic. So the possible contract is not a favor. It is about maintaining the defensive ceiling. Gonzalez finished as the 14th best corner in 2 healthy seasons by Pro Football Focus grades, and his short rookie sample had already shown an even higher grade. We are not talking about one isolated flash. We are talking about consistency from a player still entering his physical prime. The behind-the-scenes part got more interesting when he skipped OTAs earlier in the month, fueled some speculation about his contract posture, then showed up for voluntary practices and mandatory minicamp. That feels like a player who wants to stay, wants financial respect, and does not want the situation to turn into a fight. When asked if he would play 2026 without a new deal, he basically took the weight out of the question by saying there was still a long time until the season. A long time, yes, not unlimited time. Executives around the league expect a deal before Week 1, according to Jason La Canfora, and I will defend the Patriots on this without dancing around it. Paying Gonzalez early is smarter than letting the price climb or letting the conversation become a camp distraction. Gonzalez or cap flexibility? To me, that vote should not even be close. Flexibility exists to keep players like this, not to explain why they got away. If Vrabel wants a physical, smart, respected defense, Gonzalez is a central piece. And when you have a young central piece, the right behind-the-scenes move is not hesitation. It is resolution. In the end, these four stories are saying the same thing through different doors. The Patriots are trying to build a foundation that does not depend only on headlines. Carlton Davis shows locker room leadership. The tight end search could reveal offensive ambition after Julian Hill's injury. Mike Brown is that quiet battle that decides depth in December. And Christian Gonzalez is the name that separates serious planning from pretty talk. My read is this: New England has good signals, but it has to act with precision. In the comments, tell me which decision matters most for 2026. If you want to follow every Foxborough signal, subscribe, hit the like button, and stay with us.